We were told to paint. We were told to just sketch out some contrast.
Paint?
Photography.
Photography.
Yeah. I'm experimenting myself. I've done
And what you do here that seems to be so different than so many other places around the state. Now, you are high achievers, and I admire that. I've got a gift for, you're both in 7th grade? And as I think about that, I guess that's where I got my political beginnings, Bob. Mr. Schaefer?
How would you Bob? The kids all call me Bob.
Back
Not true.
Back then, we had a big presidential election year, and John F. Kennedy was running against Richard Nixon, and we had our own mock debate in school. If you, those of you that study history would remember that that was the first big televised presidential debate, Richard Nixon and Jack Kennedy. And I'll have to confess, I was a Jack Kennedy fan then. And you know, my house, my neighborhood back then, especially if you had to be brought up Catholic, you thought Jack Kennedy was pretty neat, and I did. And so I got chosen to be one of the 3 debaters in an all-school debate to argue on behalf of who eventually became President Kennedy. And ever since then, I've been fired up about politics. I didn't get politically active until many years later. But in all of our trade associations, we did have a dairy farm, as Mr. Schaefer pointed out. And I very quickly got involved in a state organization of dairy farmers like me, and worked my way up fairly quickly. By 29, I think I was state president of this industry organization. And I served on a national board of it. We got into banking and real estate, and I did the same thing in those trade organizations, politically active. And we would call those special interest groups now, Bob, after the job you and I both had in Congress, but representing a group of similarly minded industry people who were trying to talk to politicians about don't mess with me, or help me out this way, don't hurt me that way. And then, as he pointed out, a few of what I think were friends asked me if I wouldn't take on the job of being chairman of the Boulder County Republicans, and a couple years later, Wayne Allard, who you would certainly know well, and some of you might recognize the name. Wayne was the first to ask me if I would be state party chairman, and I did that, and then we got a new congressional district, and I managed to get to serve right on the heels of your Mr. Schaefer. He was going one way as I was going the other, coming into Congress as he was leaving. A rare individual who actually took a pledge to serve the 3 terms and honored that pledge against some pretty serious lobbying from people like me who said, why don't you stick around? But a man of his word, and I'll forever admire you for that, and a whole lot of other things. I think one of the big challenges to us in Colorado right now is to get our economy moving again, and at the core of that, I mean, we're not bad, but by my calculations, based on the population growth we've had in these last few years since the recession started, we're about 250,000 jobs short of where we ought to be in Colorado. And jobs, to me, coming especially from where I come from, my life story is one of seeing opportunities, being given opportunities, being able to wrap your arms around them and say, let's go do that and work really hard and get it done, and building things up. And I think that's been the history not only of my personal story, but a whole lot of Colorado. If we're going to do that, we have to have the access to that entrepreneurial kind of atmosphere, that chance in Colorado for people just like all of you, who are just like I was not that many years ago, to be able to seize those opportunities. We're a little short on that right now, and that's a concern of mine. So I've got some ideas on how we can get the economy moving again. But once we get that economy moving, and you all are graduating from school and you're ready to seize some of those opportunities and live out your own version of the American dream, like I think I have, we've got to have a workforce that can seize those opportunities. One of my biggest concerns, and Bob and I were talking about this as we came up the stairs, is that not every student in Colorado has the opportunity to come to school just like this. And I think that's one of the challenges, it's one I accept, and why I'm running for this job, is we've got to extend this opportunity. So I want to hear from you before I walk out of here. What is so great about this school? What's so different about this school? How do we do this for every young person around Colorado who really does want a chance to learn? Because it begins here. This is the seed that gets planted. That not only is I don't want to minimize the knowledge that you good teachers are sharing with these students, but it's that self-confidence, that belief in themselves that they can accomplish much if given that opportunity, a sense of personal pride. And I think sometimes when we don't instill that in our young people, we're really denying them the opportunity to be all that wonderful things that's inside each and every one of you. I use an example of I've got 4 grandchildren. And our daughter Melanie, who I think you know, she and Alan have decided to homeschool. And she's homeschooling their oldest daughter, who's 7. And of course we think little Virginia Ann is genetically superior since she's our granddaughter. But in reality, she's just a normal kid like most normal kids. But because Melanie and Alan and Claudia and I, for that matter too, but because she's been given a lot of opportunity and a lot of encouragement, she's reading at 5th grade level, and she's still in 1st grade. And I use her as an example. I mean, she's already writing cursive. She's already doing what I think are fairly complicated math problems. And again, we'd love to say that, well, she's just rare because she's ours. But I think she's an example of how brilliant our young people are if only we feed them a little. You're feeding them here. And so compliment all of you first and foremost. But I think one of the biggest challenges in front of us as a state is to do exactly what you've done here for all these students. Give every child that opportunity to be as great as they were born to be. How do we get that done? It appears to me, and I'd like to hear from some of the teachers too before I get out of here, but it appears to me that what you've done is taken that top-down model and turned it on its head. You've got, as I understand it, a great deal of parental involvement here, parental board, I think. You've obviously got dedicated teachers. You've broken the old mold about licensing, and you've just gone for talent and performance, which seems to make all too much sense. I saw a little evidence when I walked in that there is discipline in this school. Some states have actually adopted a teacher's bill of rights. I think that's a pretty intriguing idea. The teachers ought to have the flexibility to control their classrooms, their flexibility in how they figure out how to reach each and every child and how to teach. I think when, I don't know what you're doing here, but I was told in Colorado Springs by a teacher that somewhere close to 30 out of the 180 days that they're required to teach a year are consumed with mandatory testing. I'm all for testing and I'm all for standards, but at some point you have to be able to teach too. So bottom line, I think we ought to let teachers teach, and we ought to give students every opportunity to learn. So speaking of that, I'll use that as the segue to stop and hopefully take some questions and maybe get some input from all of you. What does make this school so unique? I don't know that anybody has to come here, do they? No, that's kind of a beautiful thing too. My folks sent me to a school, a little Catholic school, that I didn't have to go to. That's where they chose to send me. And similarly to what you're doing here at Liberty Commons, I thought many years, I still think back to those days. We didn't have, and I know you're not spending more than anybody else. I know that much about you. We didn't there either. But there was an expectation, I finally realized, certainly from the teachers, that every child could learn and that they would. And there was an expectation from all of the parents, I quickly realized too, that the children were supposed to be able to learn there and that they would. And everybody was held accountable. Everybody knew everybody else, everybody lifted everybody else up. There was those high standards, and then after the fact, when everybody kind of got dumped together from our little Catholic school in with the public school, it was pretty obvious who rose to the top. We were ahead, and it served us well throughout life. It can work, and you're doing that here day by day, and and individual by individual, that's a beautiful thing. It doesn't get any better than that. So I wanted to come here and compliment you, but mostly, again, I wanted to learn. So let me stop there. And maybe you've got questions for me. If you've got questions, I'll try to answer them. But I want to hear from you all what makes Liberty Commons so wonderful. And how can we do it somewhere else, everywhere else? Yes?
I know that a lot of people complain about the dress code we wear, but I realize that it sets a tone of discipline for our students, and it makes us more professional and ready to learn.
What is your dress code?
Well, any color polo, but it has to be collared and not fluorescent, with blue or khaki pants, and then some
Or
other-
black.
or black,
Kind of says who you are, huh?
Mhm.
Yep,
like a business.
sets a standard, yep, yep. Good idea. Somebody else, yes?
Well, if you have a low grade, they'll have you go to 9th hour, and you have a sheet, and so they try to help you raise that grade up so you can have A's and B's.
So that's available to everybody every day. Is this 9th hour?
Mhm.
Yes.
Right now, yeah. Awesome, you like that?
Yeah.
You take advantage of that?
Well, I've never had to do it, but I think it's a really good idea.
Because you're one of those who is one of those high achievers.
Well, I wouldn't say that exactly, but yes.
But I could say that about you, couldn't I? You look like you're one of those high achievers.
Thank you.
Congratulations. Yeah, it shows. What grade are you in?
7th.
My goodness, you present yourself very well.
Thank you.
Very, very mature. Well done. Somebody else? Yes, sir. Jonathan. Jonathan and I are old friends.
All about 15 minutes.
That's right.
Part of it is a little bit harder to duplicate. What we have here is really a drive of a student body as we're pushing each other towards getting the perfect grades on our papers, pushing each other to be the best in each class, every class. It's very much a student-oriented drive going on how you should be presenting yourself to visitors, how you should be working in class, how attentive you should be, stuff like that.
Peer pressure, but a very positive peer pressure.
Yes, sir.
Guy that we would both know, I think we both know him, Arthur Brooks at AEI. He talks about earned success. I think when Arthur Brooks, he's the chairman of something called, or president of something called the American Enterprise Institute. And he talks at great length about the greatness of America, our entrepreneurship, and all the inventions and the brilliant minds that have been here. But there is an attitude out there that it's all relative, and we all kind of just got to spread things around. And some of us think that's pure nonsense. So does Brooks. And he talks about the genius of earned success, that pride of accomplishment. And originally my passion was on the athletic field. I wanted to teach the world how to play better football, but it was really that thrill of competition, of working hard and achieving something, more points on the board than the other team. But that translated very much to the rest of my life then. And you do that in the business world, you do that in your family, you do that every single day. But that earned success, that confidence I talked about earlier, that all of you certainly demonstrate in great degrees, you can't take that away from somebody. And that's the pride of doing. Bob and I were talking about social promotion, and I know you don't do that here. You get promoted to the next grade, the next level, when you've accomplished the task at hand and you're ready for that next level. That's kind of the way life is. But there's a whole different school of thought out there that's just the opposite of that. Well, we just move people along because they got older, or because we're kind of done with them. Next layer. I think you know who loses in that? It's you. So congratulations to your leadership here. That they're teaching you. Probably some days it's the hard lessons, but that earned success, that belief that you can get things done and accomplish it, that's going to live with you the rest of your life. Well said. Yes, sir.
I gotta say, a lot of the students' drive and success come from the teachers. We have a pretty excellent set of teachers here that really care for the students and the advancement of their education. from what I hear from a lot of my other friends at public schools, their teachers are kind of hard to deal with. The teachers don't really put all that much time into their students, but you can call any one of your teachers here, and they'll take their time to help you out, to catch you up or whatever.
What's the big difference there? I mean, I've just met a handful of your staff, and it really shows the caliber of your staff, that you can just see it in their eyes that they want to be here. I'm guessing you all chose to be here as well, those of you that are teachers. Is it the autonomy that you have as a charter?
Mm-hmm. Well, there's a business element here. This is a competitive school. We don't stay in business unless people want to come here, and just as there's no student that has to be here, none of the teachers have to be here either. It is a bunch of people coming together around a pretty impressive vision for what education ought to be, and people wanting to be a part of it. You mentioned budgets. We operate on a little less than the other schools do, so I don't have more money to pay teachers for everything they're contributing to the school. But the reward is being the best, and that is part of our goal, to be the best, not the best we can be, to be the best in Colorado, if not the country. So that's the goal. Everyone buys into it, and the rewards are great for everyone. We know we're going to see these kids succeed when they leave here, just as we are going to see all of our seniors succeed when they leave in a few weeks. And if you're going to teach, you might as well be the best teacher you can. And most of our teachers buy into that philosophy, and administrators and parents pitch into, and these kids rise to the challenge.
How have you all been here through the elementary grades too, or did some of you move here later?
I moved
And when did you come?
this year.
This is your first year?
Mhm.
How about you?
Kindergarten.
So you've been here the whole route, yeah. Are you glad? I mean, did somebody talk to me, did your parents want you to come here? Did you not think that was a cool idea, or was this something you really wanted to do? Which way did it work? How about you, since you just came this year?
Well, I actually went to Ridgeview Classical, which is a school kind of like this, but Liberty has a tone, a mood kind of everywhere of success and helping others that I just didn't feel at Ridgeview. So when my parents told me I was coming to Liberty, I was pretty excited.
Good. How'd they find out about Liberty?
We've always known about Liberty, friends from church, friends from other places.
Was anybody initially not too thrilled that you were being told to come here?
Well, at first, I was worried about all my friends at my old school, but I was kind of afraid to go to a new school. But once I got here, there's just a positive attitude, and since it's a small school, it'll take a couple days, and pretty soon everybody's gonna be your friend. So, and the teachers are very good at adapting to new students, because they know that you're not really used to the policies here, so they really help you to get used to it. And I think it's really made me a better person coming to this school, because it just makes you show a lot more respect for other people, and it makes you a lot more dedicated to what you want to do.
What grade are you in?
I'm in 8th.
Yeah. Does the competition, I mean, there are a lot, you guys are competing pretty hard. Bob says you want to be the best in the nation. That's pretty high standard. No fooling around here. You pretty strict environment. Is that tough, or you like that? Yes.
It's a lot of work to meet all the expectations, but there's so much reward when you do, because you get the perfect A's that you really wanted, or you find the awards. We just took a Latin exam, and there were a lot of kids in the 7th grade alone that got awards on that because it's a national exam. And there's so much reward from those achievements you've received from all of the different expectations set by the teachers, that because it is hard work, it pays off in the end.
What kind of rewards?
You feel pride in how much you've worked hard for. And there's pride in the school too, just because you have, as a class, as a whole, you've achieved so much that year. And then there is always fun stuff at the end of the year that you get to do. Like in a couple of weeks we have an Eagles games, which are just like a celebration of the end of the year where you play volleyball and soccer and that kind of stuff. And it really does pay off in the end.
What year are you?
7th.
Pretty impressive young people. Quite impressive. So it wasn't, the rewards weren't trophies or ribbons, it was in here.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's the best place, isn't it? Back to that earned success. Yeah, you can't replace that. How tough is it to always feel like you're competing, pushing harder? Anybody? Anybody else? Yes.
Well, you definitely have to put effort in. You know, I spend about like an hour and a half doing homework, making sure it's correct. And so I guess it is hard to keep up to the standards, but as Jillian said, it does pay off. And I kind of enjoy being challenged because I went to a different school before this in like 4th grade, and it's definitely more challenging here, but I like that better.
You were in a different school until 4th grade?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Then came here. So what do you all want to be? Maybe 7th and 8th graders haven't figured that out yet, but some of you are a little bit older. What kind of career paths were you have figured it out? I'm not surprised.
I want to go into law school.
You do? Another lawyer? Lawyer politician? Yeah, really? Ah. So what kind of lawyer you want to be? Good one?
Yeah.
Good for you. Anybody else, real quick? What kind of, it's career?
School.
Med school?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Veterinarian.
Veterinarian? Want to be a buffalo vet? I could use one. Yeah, we raised buffalo, as Bob said. Yes, Jonathan?
Counselor.
A counselor. You want to help other young people just like you're being helped? God bless you.
Your
Kind of a
attention,
caregiver.
please, all high school
Yes?
students.
I want to be a
Signed up for
linguist.
the E-list
A
for
what?
learning
A linguist.
field
Do
trip.
you
Sign up
really?
before you leave today.
You
It's
speak
a
multiple
field trip
languages
for
already?
No, but I'm taking 2 languages
Junior
next
high
year, and I'm
students
thinking
have
about
signed up
taking
for the Fort
another
Fun
language
field
when I'm
trip. Please stop by the front office
Are you
and
gifted
accept
that
your
way?
field trip form.
I don't know yet.
I have a son, and I think that is a gift. I have a son who just picks up languages easy. And that's one of the hardest things in the world for me to master. So you have my admiration.
Some of these kids got to catch a bus.
They gotta go?
So yeah, if you need to bolt, don't be afraid to do that. If you
Don't make
still
me-
want to visit some more, we
I
can.
don't want to make you late getting home. Thank you all very much. It's really a pleasure.
Yeah, I have
Most
purple.
impressive. Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much. Pleasure. Oh, Stirter.
This is the schmancy dress code.
Yeah, you do. Pretty good.
Thank you.
The system works, and we learned a lot about.
You're gonna go far.
Very shy until she gets to know
Juan, and that's what those masks are. We're the